Good morning. I'm Cher, the Shadow Walker, and I'm taking a look today at the last 48 hours of central Canada and the central United States for ghosts, spirits, entities, and apparitions in people's homes primarily. I do a lot of clearings for people in homes, and I thought I'd take a look. It's just to see how many people are having these experiences across these areas. So we're starting with Quebec. And in Quebec, in Montreal, in Grifton residential area, residents in a converted industrial loft near Lachine Canal report hearing the sounds of a heavy object being dragged across the floor in units that were known to be vacant. One resident reported seeing a headless silhouette near the ruins of St. Anne's Church. So there was 3 people involved in this, and so there was the 3 residents and security guard. This happened on the 26th at 11:45 p.m. to 2:30 a.m. They shared it with the Haunted Montreal Investigators private log. And in Quebec City, Upper Town, Rue Sainte-Anne-Famille, reports of a phantom knot reappearing in a private residence. Curtains and bed sheets were found tied in intricate, inexplicable knots despite no one being in the room. A woman in a white cloak was also seen walking near the Cathedral of the Holy Trinity. So the 2 homeowners and a tour guide who witnessed the figure from the street. The knots were discovered at 7:15 a.m. on March 27th, so that was this morning. And the figure was seen at 11:10 p.m. on March 25th, and it was logged with the Ghost Tours of Quebec. I'm kind of thinking that maybe the knots have something to do with sailors around there or fishermen. My father, when they grew up and they were fishermen on the Gaspé coast, his knots were quite intricate. So the minute I heard that, I thought of the knots and fishermen. In the Gaspésie region, in Saint-Maximin-du-Mont-Louis, a local hunter reported a mental breakdown or sudden vivid mental image of a safe path through a heavy fogged area, which they believed was to be a warning. Could have been a Bigfoot giving them a warning. I call Bigfoots guardians, by the way, because that's what they represented themselves to me when I seen my first Bigfoot. This encounter near a local magnetic anomaly in the Chickasaw Mountains. That's very true. That area is full of that. My family is from there. And it was one local witness. It was a resident of the area, could have been a cousin of mine. It was 4:45 p.m. on March 25th, and they shared it with the local Indigenous Communities Circle, so probably my band. So we're taking a look at Ontario, and we're starting with Penetanguishene and the Beck House and apartment 302. So guests and residents, you can stay there. It's like an Airbnb at this historic lumber baron's estate. Had unexplainable physical activities, including the sounds of heavy footsteps and objects being moved in the kitchen. A shadowy figure was seen standing in the doorway of room 302. So there was 2 guests staying at the Airbnb that seen this and 1 staff member that was on the property. The activity was most intense by 11:45 p.m. on March 26th, and it was reported in their private log there. They have an Airbnb there, and you can stay at it. Hamilton, in the John and Augusta Street area, a residential area. There's reports of the headless coach. And this is a historical thing. People see this phantom ghost and carriage, and they hear the sound of it racing down Hunter Street and ending abruptly near a private residence. And there was 3 separate residents and 3 separate units on the same block that saw this occur at midnight on March 25th, and they reported it to the Hamilton Public Library and the local Ghost Research Project and Neighborhood Watch. In North Bay, in the downtown corridor, 100 Fergus Street, reports of a distinct presence of somebody looking over their shoulder while they're working. These are volunteer people. And in a nearby residence, a girl in a frilly dress was seen in a hallway. She smiled at the witness before vanishing. So that was one volunteer and two residents. They were both family members. The girl was seen at 8:30 on the 26th, and the presence was felt at 10:15 p.m. on March 25th, and it was reported to the North Bay Museum Records and the Haunted Northeastern Ontario Trackers. And in Cornwall, in the historic jail and the residential vicinity in that area, reports of a lady in black seen near the exercise yard, which is currently being investigated for unclaimed burials. Nearby residents report hearing slamming doors and profane whispering, so somebody's swearing, coming from the direction of the property. And there was 8 investigators on site at this time and 2 neighbors. And this was logged during a tech sweep between 9 p.m. and 1:30 a.m. over the last 48 hours. And it's to the Phantoms of Yore and the Haunted Walk research team that it was reported. So that's interesting. Now we're heading over to the United States, and in the Vermont state, in the last 48 hours, in Chester, in a private residence, a historic district, a family member reported a sudden escalation of activity in their Civil War era home. This includes eerie children's laughter coming from the locked attic and the discovery of a small charcoal drawing on the wall that appeared overnight. The residents also report seeing a spectral girl in a white dress standing in the hallway. The Johnson's family, that's 2 adults and 2 young daughters. That's the people that's seen this. And it was seen between 11:15 p.m. and 2:30 a.m. on March 25th. And it was reported to the Vermont-based Paranormal Forum. And in Bennington, Woodford area, this is another private property, reports of a ghost light or spook light, orbs of varying colors, moving through the woods directly behind the residential property. The homeowners describe the lights as having pulsing qualities and note that their pets refuse to go outside while the lights are visible. I'm just going to make a suggestion to these people. Take your pets outside and bring them back in on, because these type of things aren't uncommon, and then you get a mutilation. So please do that. And it's the one homeowner and 2 neighbors who witnessed the lights from across the road. They observed them between 8:45 p.m. and 10:30 p.m. on March 26th, and it was logged to the Essex County Ghost Project. And the Vermont/New England Spikes shared in their community high strangeness board. And in Shelburne, Dutton House/residential guard station. Security staff at this historic site report adult-sized cradles rocking on their own and the sounds of heated arguments coming from an empty second floor room. So that's a residual. A disembodied face was also reported peering from a window during a perimeter check. So this is 2 security guards and 1 morning staff member. It was at 3:30 a.m. on March 27th, and they reported it to the Vermont Paranormal Society. In the state of New Hampshire, in the last 48 hours, in the Portsmouth, Hunker Street, South End area, a woman has been seen in a long dress in a second-story window staring out towards the harbor, and this is at a private residence. And the residents report the scent of sea salt and old wood appearing in the hallway, followed by the sounds of heavy door latching when no one was near it. And so that's 2 local residents and a pedestrian who was passing by. So the sighting by the pedestrian was at 9:15 p.m. on March 25th, and the Apparitions of the wood appearing and reappearing and the scent of sea salt. That was at 11:30 p.m. on March 26th, and it was shared with the New England Legends Research Group and logged in the Regional Coastal Sighting Database. And Old Heinecker Road area in Heinecker, neighbors of the property, it's a historic property, seen a green glowing in the upper windows and a faint scent of roses drifting across the property line despite freezing temperatures. One witness seen a silhouette of a woman with fiery hair on the staircase through the front glass. And so that was three neighbors, and it was observed between 10 p.m. and 12:45 a.m. over the last 2 nights. They reported it to the Haunted NH social media circles. And in Keene, Main Street Historic District, sightings at a private residence near a historic tavern in the area, homeowner reports phantom footsteps on the second floor and sensations of being watched from a doorway. Objects on the mantel were reportedly found shifted several inches to the left on 2 consecutive mornings. One homeowner and one guest. The footsteps were heard at 2:15 a.m. on the 27th, so this morning, and it was logged into the paranormal investigators digital intake form. In New York State, in the last 48 hours, in the Yaqui Victorian residence near Hudson River. It's right near the Hudson River. And reports of a visible force shaking beds and sound of a heavy rocking chair moving in an empty living room. This location is historically significant due to the Ghostbusters ruling, and neighbors have reported a recent spike in phantom footsteps on the exterior porch. So it's two residents and one neighbor that witnessed it. And it occurred between 11:30 p.m. and 2:15 a.m. on March 25th, and they shared it in the local historical logs and the Hudson Valley Paranormal Database. And the Rolling Hills Asylum, it's a residential vicinity. The sightings of quarantine ghost hunt held on the 25th. Investigators and nearby residents report hearing deep guttural growls coming from the property's shadow-filled corridors. Residents in the adjacent properties report their dogs barking at unseen figures moving along the fence line. So this was 6 independent investigators and 2 local residents. This is the land. I've done these before. This is land. This is what happened on the land. You need to go back in your historical records, see what was there, bring in a shaman, depending on what band in your area was there to clear this. And rocks hold this type of energy. And this peaked at 1:45 a.m. on March 26th. And I really wish I could come down there and do some of these, but I can't right now. Rolling Hills Asylum, that's what they put it in, the log there, and the Canadian Paranormal Expedition Research Team that was down there. And in Manhattan, the Merchant House Museum and Residential Guard area. So the security reports an entity, Gertrude, appearing as a young woman in the second-story window. Witnesses from the street describe her as looking unnervingly solid before flickering out like a light bulb. So it was 2 security guards and 2 pedestrians. And it was observed at 10:10 p.m. on March 26th. And they reported it in the internal logs and to the Haunted History Trail of New York State. And, many times when ghosts come through, when I've seen a ghost come through in one of the houses that I owned, and his name was Frederick. He had owned the house before. Being a psychic, I knew who it was. And after he did this final banging of these big oak doors that I had and popping his body through right up to his waist at the top, scaring my son and my daughter-in-law, I cleared the house with them. I taught them how to clear it, and we cleared it. Up until then, we had lived with him, and it was a turn of the century home. You can live with them. Sometimes it gets a little unnerving. They want what they had before, and they don't like you putting your things where their things are supposed to be. It's like you're invading their space, and sometimes you just have to take over your own territory. I hope that helps some people. Next, we're taking a look at Michigan State. And in the Corktown Historic Residential Area in Detroit, a resident in a restored 19th century row house reported the sound of phantom typing coming from the home's office late at night. One witness reported seeing the reflection of a man in a waistcoat in a darkened television screen. When they turned around, the room was empty, and it was two residents, the homeowners, and it peaked at 11:45 p.m. If you can get a hold of a standard old typewriter and put a piece of paper in it and put it in that room, they might send you a message. I'm not saying they will, but I'm saying they might send you a message. And they reported it to the Detroit Paranormal Expeditions Group. And in Benton Harbor and Morton Hill District, reports of vocal remnants. A private residence near the historic Morton House, a resident reported hearing two women arguing in a language they believe to be Swedish in their kitchen. This matches historical lore regarding Swedish sisters associated with the area. And the primary resident was one of the people that lived there, and the other people were visiting, and it was another family member, so they heard it, the two of them. And it occurred at 1:15 a.m. on March 26th, and they reported it to the Haunted Southwest Michigan Board. And in Mackinac Island, in the vicinity, despite the island being in its quieter off-season transition, a resident reported seeing a young girl with long hair playing near the porch of a historic home. The girl reportedly told the witness she wanted to go home before fading into the morning mist. Ah, and that is one local resident. That was at 6:45 on March 27th. Somebody needs to go in there and clear that and help that girl to cross over. It's very easy to do. Anyone can do it. I've done a video on them. Please go back and take a look if you're interested. And they reported it in the regional haunts in the Michigan area. Moving on to Pennsylvania, and that's always a good area. In Gettysburg, in Steinway Avenue, residents living in a historic house that was once served as a field hospital report sounds of phantom moaning, heavy furniture being dragged across the wooden floors. One witness reported a blue tinted woman standing by their child's bedside who vanished when the light was turned on. She must have died of asphyxiation of some sort. And two residents, homeowners, and one local tour guide who observed the figure from the street window. The activity, and this is cluster of activity, was between 11 p.m. and 2:30 a.m. on the nights of March 25th and 26th, and it was reported to the Gettysburg Ghost Tours. In West Preston and near Chase Street, despite the historical nature of this area, homeowner reported a foul odor resembling sulfur that appeared suddenly in the hallway, accompanied by the sound of a pig-like grunt behind a closed door. This matches historical Smurl case profile, which has renewed interest this month. And it was the couple that lived in that place, in the house, and it occurred at 1:15 a.m. on March 27th. And they reported it to the Pennsylvania Paranormal Association. And in Philadelphia, Old City, Society Hills residential area, the Stitcher, a resident in a historic row house, reported seeing a silhouette of a woman sitting in a chair by a window, appeared to be moving her hands as if sewing. When the resident approached, the chair began to rock on its own, but the figure disappeared. So, one primary witness and a neighbor who noted the flickering candle in the same room. And it was observed on March 26th at 10:45 p.m. And it was reported to the Ghost Tour of Philadelphia research team. And that is it for Central Canada and Central United States. Have an absolutely wonderful day. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And remember, if you're having an issue, my email address is there. If I can help you, I'll happily help you for free. Thank you and have a wonderful day.